video is sponsored by Adam and Eve. Go to adamandeve.com and use my code PRINCESS for 50% off one item plus free shipping in the US and Canada. Some exclusions apply. So I found out the news that First Kill was getting canceled while sitting on the couch with my girlfriend, the same couch in which we watched the series together. The explanation given by Deadline sources on the issue is that the series, quote, did not meet thresholds for viewing and completion of episodes. While we do not know the numbers, per the issue with most streaming service shows, what Deadline notes is that First Kill cracked within the top 10 for English language series within the first 3 days of its release. The series would then go on to peak at number 3 within its first full week of release, only behind Stranger Things Season 4 and Peaky Blinders Season 6, two huge established series, and spent one more week in the top 10 before falling off, easily clearing over 100 million hours viewed within its first 28 days of release, which for a poorly promoted, not really coming from any huge property thing is a big deal. And despite that, here we are.
I just want your heart, yeah, I want your heart. I just want your heart, 'cause I want you.
First Kill was an American supernatural teen drama based on the short story by Victoria Schwab that premiered on June 10th on Netflix and then was canceled in August after just one season and only being, I guess, on the air for like less than 2 months. The show was about teenage vampire Juliet Fairmont, who has just turned 16 and therefore must have her first kill in order to enter adulthood and take her place among her family of legacy vampires who are the direct descendants of Lilith, which, being descended from Lilith is one of my favorite vampire tropes. Love that for her. It's what she deserves. Juliet, being a teen vampire protagonist, believes that feeding on humans is wrong.
I don't want to hurt her. I don't want to hurt anyone.
Everything gets complicated when she falls for the newest girl at her school, Calliope Cal Burns. They have a flirtation which is very awkward and very queer and very cute.
Tonight? Okay. Awesome. Great. See you there, Calliope.
But I guess I'll see you in English first.
Yes, right. Mr. Porter. Hi.
They end up at a party together and have a very intense kiss in the closet to the current gay national anthem, Slumber Party by Ashnikko. During their interlude, Juliet feels the pulsations of sapphic vampirism and bites Cal. That's when we jump back and find out that Calliope belongs to a family of monster hunters from the Guardian Guild, basically like if Blade had a posse, and they are there to fight monsters, and she needs to slay her first monster in order to gain her family's approval and officially become a hunter.
They keep telling me my time is coming. They don't understand that until it does, I won't feel like a member of this family.
During the kiss scene, she stakes Juliet right here in the tit.
My tit. No. Your heart.
And this is the beginning of their connection, which will go on throughout the entire series, season, which is this push and pull between these two girls having a deep, intense longing for each other while their families are determined to kill each other because that is the natural order of these things. Now, if you followed my channel for a long time, you'll know that the depictions of Black people, but especially queer Black women, femmes, and other marginalized genders in urban fantasy and genre television is something that's very close to my heart. I watch genre television. This is what I'm into. That's the reason why on my Patreon, all my tiers, except for my white queen Laura Lance, are Black women who have been wronged by their shows, fandoms, and writers. So when I got the screeners for First Kill, the first thing I thought was what a lot of people thought, woof, this did not get that much of a budget. But when Imani Lewis shows up as Calliope Burns, I knew that I was gonna watch the entire thing. When I looked at Cal, I could see girls that I knew, girls I grew up with, long permed hair, the dark skin, the full lips and nose, the stud nose piercing, which is one of those entry-level Black piercings that you can sometimes persuade your parents to let you have. This was a bad bitch. And not to mention her dual desire to be both a child and an adult, And I would see the moments of her brother Theo sleeping in a do-rag, and the effortlessness of the Burns family's blackness that didn't feel put upon, and that they had equal screen time to the white family and were just as developed, were made just as complex and nuanced and gray morality wise. It wasn't just like the vampires are good and misunderstood and the monster hunters are terrible. Like, they both got their issues. That was amazing for me, because despite all the flaws of the show, of which we can obviously say there was definitely budgetary issues, this was something different. And it was hard to see other people within the pop culture queer space not really get that, especially white people. Like, I understand, yes, budget low. We know that. We were told that. It has been said by everyone in production that they had a terrible budget. So therefore, what they managed to do and accomplish in spite of that should be seen under a significant light. Especially for me, what was meaningful following First Kill, which I did not expect, is that people like Calliope. Fandom does not like black people. They can't say it out loud all the time, although they are getting, bolder in that. But it's clear if you've been on Tumblr, fanfiction.net, or AO3 for as long as I have. Black female characters, black femmes, get scorned, especially when paired with white men with whom people want to be in MLM relationships, even when the writers themselves are not interested in doing that work because they would rather queer bait and tease than actually follow through. Black men get introduced as love interests but are killed off. Black women are tokenized and mistreated only to have their showrunners never deal with the internalized anti-blackness they have promoted by treating them like shit despite them being leading characters for 10 seasons on the CW. God bless Candace Patton. Can't wait for her to be free. Candace Patton is gonna be free in 2023, Lord. I hope Jordan Peele scoops her up and puts her in something fun, because she deserves to be leading something. As someone who has watched a lot of shows with no black women, but good LGBTQ representation, it meant a lot for me to see a dark-skinned female lead be totally and completely adored, not just by their love interest, because Juliet looks at Calliope like she has never seen anything more perfect, anything more beautiful, and it's like, usually the love interest that you see in those things does not look like Calliope. And that was so fantastic to me. And then to see fan art of them where Calliope's features aren't erased, where she's not being made to be lighter skinned. It is sometimes easier not to put into words, not to give words to the pain of how anti-blackness and misogynoir and fandom have just wrecked me at times. To see the very little bit of representation we get treated with such terrible disdain, from Gwen to Tara to Bonnie and beyond, it is a constant battle to be present in a community that seems to think that killing off black leads on shows is a normal occasion when we only get one black character. And even now, even when we get black leads, we still have to be worried about them getting sleepy hollowed because of what went on with my homegirl and everyone's favorite person, Nicole Bahari.
Come on, I mean, Tom is a handsome guy, so I can imagine that people are watching and they're like, hook up already, hook up. Fly, what are you doing, Abby? You're wasting time.
I'm a 30-year-old woman, yet representation nowadays is having me feel more seen than a lot of things that happened when I was a kid. And it sucks on a certain level to be 30 and to say that First Kill was a first for me. As someone who watches this genre, engages in this genre, this was exceptional in that, and now it's gone. That's exhausting. But what makes it more exhausting is the way in which I've seen some of my non-black peers or some of my non-queer peers who are black not really get why this mattered. That they want to be like, it was terrible, but I get it, or like it didn't add anything to the vampire genre and these kind of things. It's like most things aren't. There's been very few things I've seen in the last couple years coming in from vampire fiction that have really broken the boundary of it. What I want from it now is something interesting and compelling, but also this is a YA series with one season in a completely different streaming service market than all of the teen vampire shows of my generation. And even more so when we talk about queer representation, the reality is that we have seen time and time again that Black people in these shows either are like, if they're in a relationship, it's not at the forefront. If they exist, they're gonna have controversy just based on that. And when it comes especially to like a lot of Black men on some of these shows who get love interests, they are killed off very quickly, and everyone's just supposed to be okay with it because they wanted to leave to be, to go be in Hollywood, and then they only have like 2 films in their filmography. Like, the only Black actor who I've seen leave a successful television thing to go be in the movies and it work out well is the guy from Bridgerton. That's the only person I've seen who has done that pipeline, and he's light-skinned and mixed race, and so he has a different barometer cross than someone who looks like Dolls or looks like Hale. And then there's also the issue of fandom trying to pretend like it's equal opportunity for all these ships. When it comes to Supergirl, Maggie and Alex, who are a very healthy, very interesting, very, talk about race in their relationship with kindness and care, mostly because of the Black actress playing that role. That's such a very big, important skill. I mean, like, Supergirl ended on a lesbian wedding where they happily adopted a girl and they are this very intricate blended family. I have yet to see at any queer event that I've gone to, because I would have bought it if I seen it, I have yet to see any fan art of Kelly and Alex. But when Sanford's was popular, that's all you saw. Maggie and Alex, that's what everyone wanted. And they've just said when the fake Latina left. And while I have empathy for people who really like that relationship, they completely threw Kelly under the bus. Where I that their relationship was a lot more instantaneous than Maggie, because for some reason, I don't know why it is, everyone wants everything to be a slow burn, and the excuse is always, well, the writing. It's like, first of all, we're talking about these CW shows where a lot of the times the writing doesn't get to even be as good as the writers behind the scenes want it to be. As someone who has like been in slight conversation with someone who used to work at the CW, like, they don't even get to go as hard as they would want to. So you're talking about a watered down version of a watered down thing. The writing on these shows was not giving you epic romance anyway. So why is it that the interracial couple with a dark-skinned, very racially conscious Black girl is the one that just has the bad writing? Even when other Black people critique The Flash, especially Black men, they will still treat Iris West Allen as the worst thing that happened to The Flash, even though they have failed to come up with good storylines for that character, or most characters, post-season 2. But yet somehow it's not everybody's problem. Not everything is going bad. It's Iris, because Iris had the audacity to be like, we are the Flash. And everyone's like, no, how's that possible? That doesn't make any sense. Meanwhile, the show is called Superman and Lois, and nobody is upset about that because everyone gets that Lois Lane is important to Superman canon. But God forbid Iris West isn't about that. I've been rewatching one of my favorite bisexual awakening shows, Lost Girl, and I want to say this by saying, I'm saying all this while I'm drinking a way hot mug, because again, this is a nuanced thing. I don't hate these shows, I just am aware of the bullshit. I'm rewatching Lost Girl, and the whiteness of that show is something that always really upsets me. And so for those who don't know, Lost Girl is a series that used to air on on Showcase Canada, about a bisexual succubus named Bo, who finds out she's a succubus, finds out all about the world of the Fae, and she has 2.5 real love interests, but she has 5 partner characters throughout the show. Of the 5 characters that she sleeps with over the course of the series for more than one episode, like actual partnerships or just people that she's infatuated with, none of them are people of color. And all 3 of her major love interests are blonde. And this is a show that was filmed in Toronto, one of the most diverse cities on Earth. And yet this character only dated significantly white people. And 3 of them were blonde. 2.5, because I don't really consider Tamsin to be a love interest for Bo, but some of y'all do, so I guess I'll honor that. But you know what I mean? It's like, how does it make sense on any real level that this show that has so much to say about identity cannot have Bo have a non-white primary love interest when she is a polyamorous, bisexual, sexually fluid being. It doesn't make any sense. And don't get me wrong, Lost Girl is one of my favorite shows of all time. It is hugely important to me. Like that and Orphan Black were two of like my guttural shows. However, I've had so often to have my queerness on one side, my blackness on the other, and hope to God one time I'll watch something and they'll sit together. And it just rarely ever happens. And on the off chance it does, sometimes it's shit. Like when Tara and Pam get together. Oh my God. Some people, I did not realize that people actually like legitimately ship Pam and Tara.
It's just you and me now, right? So fuck Eric.
You ever say fuck Eric again, I'll slap the fangs out of your face. Don't try me.
Fuck Eric.
And I guess so, because you know what? I do love a problematic ship. I do love a mess, so I'm not judging. It definitely is like low stakes, Lestat and Louis on a certain level, but Tara is nowhere near as developed as Pam. Her screen doesn't get improved by her dating Pam. Pam is awful to her in a very racialized way. And Pam's always going to be more important with Eric than with Tara anyway. So it doesn't even feel like you are investing in their relationship. Even with the most recent Charmed, could not ever, even towards the very end, fully deal with its colorism or hire dark-skinned women, or not even dark-skinned people, period, in recurring roles. Because even Mel, who is queer and Latina, all her leverages are like in and out, in and out, in and out, nothing. You know, the Vampire Diaries delved deeply into the personal lives of Elena and Caroline, but Bonnie was up there with Matt Donovan in terms of development, and even Matt got to date Caroline, who was a high-quality player, which gave him good sleep, which gave him good screen time that he did not deserve. You know, Abby on Sleepy Hollow, and all of these characters, and even with the exception of shows that I really felt try to do something, like for example, like the web series Carmilla, or Killjoys, which has Dutch, it's like, Killjoys is a super queer show. Like, it has evil lesbian space leads, and yet because they're not white, you never see anything for them. Whenever I go to FlameCon, which is the main queer con I go to, the amount of interracial relationships that you will see with characters of color are very minimal. Like, even though First Kill is popular, I didn't see any First Kill merch there. Like, the main couples that you will really see on that level will usually be like, it's Kurosami. Now because Fire Emblem is very popular, and I love it, as you can see by my many Fire Emblem art. So you'll see some of that. You'll see, like, you know, anime stuff. But even within anime, you will see a lot more Michiko and Haruka than you will see Anthy and Utena. You don't see the diversity of that. Even when it comes to, like, you know, Stucky and all these other couples, you never see people ship Steve and Sam the same way that they ship Stucky. Like, even Falcon and the Winter Soldier, people are like, oh, we want them to kiss, but I don't still see no fan art of them in these queer spaces. It is still very white. And this is not even and this doesn't even include all of the interracial relationships that don't include white people, that never get any sort of big appeal if they aren't animated. And with that animation, people feel free to make them whatever race they decide, even if the characters are very clearly Asian coded. And, you know, as someone who loves Winona Earp and was very devastated when it was canceled and when people were fighting for it, during that fight, I remember I went to FlameCon that year, and there was just so much drive there to promote and have stuff for them there, and that just isn't the case with other things. You know, I've never seen One Day at a Time art like that. Like, there's just an inequity that we're not discussing. And then when something like cheesy like First Kill comes out, people are sort of like, well, why this? It's like, because this is all we get. And because when there is a chance to actually push back and ask for more, we are told to be quiet. When it comes to the quality of First Kill, let me just say this. I don't think it's a bad show. I think it's cheesy. When people say hey, it's awful, I'm like, not more awful than some shit that y'all be watching. Let's keep it 100. I've seen some of those shows that my peers watch. I've seen a lot of shows that are very popular, and they suck ass, okay? And I have also watched many mediocre shows for several seasons for positive queer rock, even when they were whiter than my 17% Scottish blood, okay? When people like it's so derivative. That was the whole thing, that it was very derivative. It's like, how many vampire teen shows focus on a queer couple, have a black lesbian that's a co-lead, with equal screen time and established family life? It doesn't exist. And beyond Carmilla, the web series, we have not had many mainstream media leading lesbian vampire stories between equals that were not created to be a sapphic predatory narrative that ends in tragedy. Like, I just rewatched because I'm watching a horror movie every night. In October, I just rewatched the Carmilla movie, not from the web series, but I think it was 2019, an adaptation of the Le Fenu novella, and it ends very dark, even though it's a much more intimate story. And I think that's something that we also need to remember, that yes, we have had more queer supporting characters. Those aren't leads. And let's be real, as much as I love children's media, and I love me Cachador because I love a messy, problematic queer ship. That's on Anthony and Utena. I want adult entertainment, or at least something that is for teens, which is more, God, I hate to say closer to me, because isn't it weird, side note, isn't it weird to be like a millennial and like feel like you're still a child because you haven't reached any of the milestones that you feel like you should, but you know that you're an adult, and so you're constantly like, do I have arrested development? Am I not progressing enough? What's going on with me? Or is that just me? Oh well, at least now I know how to blend my makeup. And I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been watching a lot of James Somerton's videos. By the way, such a brilliant man. Like, I love I don't watch men a lot, but what a brilliant, thoughtful man. Love listening to him talk about his stuff. Recommend, especially his Attack on Titan video. That was amazing. It actually made me decide that I'm actually gonna watch Attack on Titan. Not right now, because I'm watching Evangelion for the first time. No spoilers. Even though I know some certain things. But great, check his stuff out. But because I've been watching his stuff about queerness, especially from like the male, from the gay male perspective, it just reminds me that as much as we feel like we've made milestones, there are these things that we realize that we are fighting towards, that a little bit will happen, and then all of a sudden people will just forget that this isn't connected yet, that we haven't actually reached where we should as a society. And it's like, as much as we have seen queer vampire stories, most of them are not positive representation as text. We have reclaimed it. We have made incarnations of it. But like, even with Carmilla, like, if you look at the Moth Diaries, the Vampire Lovers, they are tragic stories at best, or sexploitation at worst, even if you like them. Like, I like the Vampire Lovers, it's still sexploitation. And to pretend otherwise is poor intersectional pop culture analysis. Not to mention that, as you know, I was born in 92, First Kill is a cheesy show, but I grew up watching Xena and Hercules and early Buffy, and even like Lost Girl has some clumsy CGI because they had budgets. Like, how many times, because we were watching shows episodically, did we tell ourselves when we show someone a new show, like, you need to wait a while? Like, as a Buffy fan, I'm trying to get my girl into Buffy. I'm a completist, so whenever I get told that a show isn't good and you have to skip seasons, I always go all the way through because I'm a completist. But like, if I were to get somebody who doesn't care about that into Buffy, I would be like, okay, watch the first two episodes, last 2 episodes, season 2. That's how people, because the middle of season 1, people say it's not good. Like, every Star Trek fan every Star Trek fan I have ever met has told me to full on skip multiple seasons of certain shows, like, because they don't think it's as good as the rest of it. Like, just skip all that shit and go there. And it'd be 8-season shows. Like, someone when I was getting Deep Space Nine, they're like, oh, just get the first 3 seasons. I was like, but that's over 60 episodes. You just want me to skip 60 episodes? It's not important. They're like, no. You know, like, remember when shows used to have bad first seasons because they were figuring out how to get better because they're still working out kinks in their process? Like, that was a thing that we used to do. Like, Parks and Rec and The Office US have infamously skippable first seasons. Like, this is a normal thing. And it's weird to have that be turned away. And I'm not saying that First Kill is some hidden masterpiece, but like, every time I rewatch it, because I had to watch it because I watched it through my podcast. Oh, which, by the way, I have a podcast. If you like it, Geek Podcast, please leave a review. You know, I watched it for Netflix first, and then I watched it for myself, and it made me think back to like the Vampire Diaries. Because remember the first season of the Vampire Diaries? Remember how it was voiceovers and they were actually like, Dear Diary? Remember that bullshit?
But I had no choice. I have to know her.
Dear Diary, today will be different. It has to be. I will smile, and it will be believable. My smile will say, I'm fine, thank you. Yes, I feel much better.
Remember that? I do. Like, I watched, because Vampire Diaries used to be the shit in the first couple seasons. So, like, it was very cheesy and very corny until it found its groove. You know, that used to be the norm. A show had to grow into itself. And to me, it was like, if Vampire Diaries got canceled for just those first 13 episodes, I think that was kind of a loss. It was all, and I say that as someone who you know Julie Plec is my enemy, the one person who I live my rights for, and I would be like, no, we're not cohabitating. Like, that would be a loss because the show was legitimately good for I would say at least 4 seasons, but it had to have a chance to get there and had to trust in itself, and it also set up the thing, like, how many of these vampire shows had that they fall in love instantaneously? This is a YA teen series. Why do they heterosexuals get to have these big, epic romance stories, but we have to sit here just be like, slow burn forever? And I would rather give a show like First Kill a second season to get a better budget and focus storytelling than write it off as tired for coming after decades of cliche vampire stories that establish these tropes as part for the course. I mean, Faith the Winx Club was lambasted exceptionally, and they got a second season still. A second season that people think is better than the first. So what's the problem? And there's plenty of good faith criticism of First Kill, and I hope that good faith criticism happens because representation is not a catch-all for quality. But I find it frustrating that people have less space for like a teen YA drama that is built upon all of these long-existing vampire supernatural romance tropes where these two girls have this instant intense attraction and they act on it, and it's so big and epic and you know, ridiculous, which is how the genre is. And yet when you talk about something like Harley Quinn, which people love, which is ultimately a better made show, but specifically with Ivy and Harley, so many people were like, just give it time, let the slow burn happen, they're building on it, they're gonna, you know, like, that show also, in my opinion, had a really rough first season in finding its tone and quality. And to me, it was like they wanted me to wait for a canon queer couple so I could watch Harley get over the Joker for the 17th time. So I wasn't really interested in that, but I still watched it because ultimately I don't want to pull like a Bros argument, because for context, right now the movie Bros by Billy Eichner is not doing super well at the box office. It just barely outperformed Avatar, and he was talking about how like straight people weren't turning out for it, and there's been this dialogue about like why people aren't coming out for Bros. And to me, like, as someone who is gonna go see Bros but it isn't going right away, is because like it is another white gay led production following, you know, Single All the Way, Happiest Season, and then the more diverse Fire Island. I'm just not at all like chomping at the bit to see another white gay relationship, especially when we have had other gay romances that are, you know, that weren't featuring 2 white gay men. And I think that that is significant. That's a different conversation to have. And I think that we don't have to support something because it's queer, because it's the first, because it has, you know, because if it doesn't get paused, we'll never have another gay female-led thing again. But I think it is worth examining how many of these things do we actually get? How many of these things have we had and how many of them have been successful? How many do studios give chances to, regardless of how many you think you've given a chance to? Because to me, it's like, yes, I've watched Fire Island. I've watched Single All the Way. I watched Happiest Season. But those were streaming on Hulu and Netflix. The stakes are different than if it's in a movie theater. Should it be? I don't think so, but it is. It is to the studios because we haven't had that many mainstream gay rom-coms. And yes, I'm not gonna run out to it because it's two white dudes, but I can still at the same time voice that while understanding that there is a significance that this was able to finally be made, because ultimately we are many, many, many years behind on where our representation should be. James actually just did a great podcast that's available on his channel about bros and really breaks down all that stuff, and it's really great. And I realized this is my first Kill episode and I haven't plugged the first Kill episode of the Geek podcast, so yeah, you got two podcasts to watch now, listen to, you know what I mean. But it's also frustrating that other people who say that they care about these issues and care about representation on a deep level will turn out to see like every bullshit Disney thing and like give rep to these queer-baity ass shows. And yet when it comes to something like this, I guess what I always think back to is like, Quantico was a very bad show. Do y'all remember Quantico? So Quantico was with Priyanka Chopra Jonas a couple years ago, and it was like the first, I believe, Southeast Asian led drama series like that on ABC. Yeah, and then it would go on Hulu. I did not care for it. I thought it was a really terrible show, especially following my shit Nikita, because that used to be my shit. Y'all remember Nikita with Maggie Q? Maggie Q, she got so screwed over in terms of shows. Regardless, I watched Quantico. I would play it in the background while I was doing other things, because A, I like to work with something on the background, but also as a black woman, as a woman of color, if it was gonna cost me nothing to spend time to just put something on in the background to show support for something that was silly and niche for a woman of color, then that was the absolute least I could do. Nothing was being lost on my plate by having it stream on Hulu after it was out. I wasn't seeking it out, but if I saw it was on Hulu, I wasn't watching nothing, it was between episodes of Scandal, I put it on. That is the least we can do. The least we can do is at least acknowledge that these things are bigger than us. They matter more than just our instant entertainment of the product. Sometimes it is about the cumulative good. Because how many shows with Southeast Asian leads do you see on ABC right now? The fact that in today's world, the most significant lesbian show on television is probably still The L Word. And I don't mean the best. I don't mean like the most significant. Representation can go like this. With Pose being gone, that is a huge amount of black and brown trans representation that we have lost. And I mourn First Kill because if it meant something to me at 30, I know it would have meant something to someone who would have access to it at 15, 16. And honestly, if I were to be totally honest with you, I think that if this had been in a pre-merger CW show, it would already have been renewed. It would have. I think it would have been renewed, and it would at least have lasted at least 2 seasons, especially because Lucy Hale's not on it, so it's not cursed. It sucks. It sucks, and I was really excited to see a show that had really interesting, thoughtful depictions of black vampire hunters, you know, our own Argents. You know, Teen Wolf's coming back, and it's like, yeah, Teen Wolf, a show that I love that had like terrible black representation. Yay! You know, and again, it is this thing, like, I'm gonna support Teen Wolf because it does have a Latino lead, and I want to root for him. I love Tyler Posey. He is so fun and funny. And yet I'm also just very saddened that solidarity of like, this may not be for me, but I'm gonna be there and support it however I can, because this matters. It's sad to me, and I don't know if First Kill will get renewed. I don't think it will. I hope it does. Well, not renewed, but will be picked up by somebody else. But even with One Day at a Time, it got picked up by somebody else, and then no one ever talked about it again. It lost all cultural cachet because we don't really know how to watch television anymore. It's like Interview with a Vampire, which is amazing, by the way. Amazing right now. Amazing show. Is out right now on AMC, and like, because of how they release it on streaming, no one knows when it's fucking airing. So Interview with a Vampire is out. It is amazing. If you thought that Grey Worm only had a very limited range, oh no, sis. Oh no. He can act. It's so good. And I think, like, as much as I want like a Glinda Stories version of like Interview with a Vampire, I want many different things. I want the silliness. I want the high, camp silliness. I want all of it. I want all of it. And I want queer women of color who are dark-skinned to be seen as desirable and to be felt protected and safe, and to have families that care about them and that have as much nuance as their white counterparts. And until that starts happening, yes, I will mourn First Kill much more than I probably should at 30, but them's the breaks. I'm once again very excited to be sponsored by Adam & Eve. Adam & Eve is the #1 source for sex toys with discreet shipping straight to your door. And if you use my code PRINCESS, you will get 50% off one item as well as free shipping in the US and Canada. They have 24/7 customer service, 90-day no hassle returns, discreet shipping, and have been in the business for almost 50 years. And 20% of their profits goes towards helping fight the spread of HIV around the world, which I think is always super important because we're talking about intersectionality. The Black community is still dealing with HIV on a larger level than most other populations. And so I think it's very important to not just, help with the spread of it, but also to have healthy sexual education for people so that they can know how HIV is transferred, how it's not, and to know that people with HIV can have healthy, fulfilling, thriving sex lives with partners without spreading anything. And again, if you use my code PRINCESS, you'll get 50% off one item plus free shipping in the US and Canada. Some exclusions may apply. So, I wanted to add this little addendum at the end of this, which is to say that I have decided that I am going to be doing more of a mixture of these sort of like slightly scripted but a little bit more flowy videos in addition to video essays. I have been feeling very burnt out, so embarrassed that I cried in front of you guys. Thank God that video is private now, but I was very upset and sad. And I realized that a part of it is because for so long I was doing this for fun, and then it became like, oh, I can make real money, and then I didn't care about views, and then I got some good views, and I was like chasing the dragon of that fucking Katy Perry video for like ever. And I am trying very much to get away from, I'm doing this to fight the algorithm and do algorithmic things, and more I am doing this because my goal has always been to offer a perspective on fan media, on pop culture, on nerd stuff that I thought was missing and relevant. And so that's what I'm going to keep doing. I'm still going to do that Falcon and the Winter Soldier video. I'm just finishing up the script, and then it's going to be the next video essay, and then I'm going to be working on a Sailor Moon video, which I'm so excited about. But in between that, I will be doing smaller videos. I have a whole thing about the prequels that I want to do, and a few other things. There's definitely going to be something for Halloween about Stepford Wives because, well, Don't Worry Darling really thought it was doing something, but it was just doing something someone else did better. But yeah, I'm okay. I will be okay. I am just trying to reprioritize how I spend my time, what I'm spending my time doing. I want to go back to really working on my book a lot more. And so a part of that is trying to figure out how to make fun content that, honestly, you, my subscribers who come back, people who just watch casually, that make you guys feel happy, proud, seen, makes you laugh, makes you feel informed. And if I do that, then I know that no matter who sees it and who doesn't, that I'm doing something that matters. And that's really what I want to do. And this is not dandruff, this is from my makeup spray. Anyway, have a great day. Like, share, subscribe. And if you like what I'm doing, follow me on Patreon, support me on Patreon. And if you like the Geek Podcast, which I've been working on, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review. And if you do, we will read it on the air. I actually think it's a great podcast. If you're looking for a place to start, we have a episode where we interview Neil Gaiman, and that's really fun. And who doesn't love talking to Neil Gaiman? Cheers.